Hey again, everybody. So we're back today with another repair. This repair is not a laptop, and it's an iPhone. In this situation, I'll just walk you through what the customer was experiencing and what we're going to do to fix it. First off, the customer was saying that it wasn't charging, not powering on, and I'll just show you that right now. Plug it in. Nothing shows up on the screen. Press the power button. Nothing shows up. It just seems like there's no power. The phone is completely dead. And I have a little ammeter here. I'll show you that. I can't really show it to you while it's plugged in. But a little ammeter here that gives you how much voltage is going through, also along with the amperage, to see, if the phone is pulling the correct amount of voltage and amperage. And I'll just tell you what it's reading right now. It's reading 5.13 volts and 0 amps. So the phone is not pulling any amps, which tells you right away that it's not charging the battery. So what we're going to do now, since that is not powering on still, we have another contraption over here, this little power squid, power cable for iPhones. It's a nice service tool to have if you do work on iPhones. What you can do is plug this directly into your power supply. As you see here, I got 4.2 amps or 4.2 volts running through it. And this is the amount of volts you would have if you have a fully charged battery. So what we're going to do is plug this in to our phone here. I can move this down so you can see. So we're going to take it, and it has each one labeled here, and this is a 6 plus. So we're going to take the 6 plus, or actually 6S plus. If I can find it. Here it is, right here. I've already got it opened here, and we're going to unplug the battery. We're going to plug in our power. So I'm going to turn off the power supply right now. Plug this into where the battery goes, like that. And then I'm going to turn on the power supply. And I'm going to press the power button. And you see we now have power to the phone. Alright, so the phone's going to boot up now. We'll just go ahead and let it boot up and to show you that it is working. And so right away what we can kind of tell just by running these few steps of diagnosis is when you plug in the power to the charger port, the dock, it's not getting any power to the board. However, so what has happened now is like the internal battery, the battery is dead. Therefore the phone won't turn on, and you can't charge the phone by plugging this in either. So it's not charging the battery, and it's got a dead battery in it. So what this does is it simulates having a fully charged battery because I'm running directly into it 4.2 volts. So the phone thinks that it has a fully charged battery, and it's working just fine off of that, as you can see. So turn off the power supply. So we know that if it was to have a fully charged battery, it would power on, but it's not registering that it's being charged. We also have a new tool here to check phones. This is our Tristar tester. Now a Tristar on your phone is the chip that enables the input and output to go through. It's the chip that the power goes through. It's the Tristar chip on the board. So what this is going to do, we're going to plug this, turn it off first. We're going to plug this into our phone, like that, power it on. Alright, so you can see here it has a little warning symbol. Now that warning could be multiple things. It could be that the Tristar is completely shorted. So anyways, what we're going to do here is we're going to run a quick test. So we're going to let this run. So it tested the dock's working okay. Now it's testing Tristar. and it's sending data signals to all the little rails or little pads on the Tristar. It is a BGA chip, and it's sending the data to that and reading it back, and just to make sure that it's getting the correct readings, and it's going to tell us what each rail is getting, if it passes or if it fails. This is a really nice tool to have if you have a iPhone repair business. It's great for if you have walk-in customers. You can just plug it in and right away tell the customer, hey, this looks like it's a Tristar problem, or sometimes it tells you, hey, try a new dock. That way you can kind of give the customer a quick little diagnosis and tell them, hey, this is what we're looking at. It is going to require some board work. This is going to be your cost. Just to let the customer know before they leave that this is what they're expecting. So it's about halfway done testing the Tristar. It's usually faster than this. It's kind of reading this kind of slow. So there's probably a lot of issues with the Tristar chip. Still testing. Alright, fail. Let's see. Click on more here. And you can see that Tristar failed on rails 1, 2, and 3. It passed on 4, which is your Tigris. So Tigris is good. And then 5, 6, and 7 rails failed as well. So most likely we're looking at a Tristar problem. And with the way it diagnosed with not charging when you plug in the charger, not pulling any amperage, but it does turn on when you plug in a battery, or a 4.2 volts running through the battery. It does turn on. Most likely it is going to be a Tristar issue. So we're going to go ahead and replace the Tristar and see what we can find out, see if that fixes it, and we're going to get on that now. Alright, so this is the vise. It's made by Hakko. We'll go ahead and put our phone board in there, and what it does is it holds the phone. It's nice and heavy to it, so it won't tip. And we're just gonna heat up that and remove it. It doesn't require extensive heat, just enough to melt the low melt solder that's around the chip. You want to be careful with this chip here. This is a BGA chip that you could damage if you get it too hot in that area. Okay. I'll take a look under the microscope. Okay. Is it here? Alright. So here's our chip right here. This is our Tristar chip. Now you can see it's covered by underfill or overfill. And we're going to have to scrape all that off. So what we're going to do first is we're going to heat up the board a little bit in that area. And then use our little tool here to scrape off around it. And one of the best things to use is like a X-Acto knife. I find that you can scrape it off without damaging the other components around it. It doesn't require a lot of heat for this. Sorry if I wasn't in view. Change my knife on the X-Acto blade to something smaller. Another thing you want to pay attention to is the orientation. You see the little dot here on the board? That's your pin 1. So you got to remember your pin 1 is over here on this side of the board. So when we put the replacement chip on, you want to put it back in the same orientation. Otherwise it won't work. Alright, so I think we have it cut enough to where when we remove the chip, it's not going to pull up any resistors with it. That's the hope anyways. Alright, make sure I'm still in focus for you. Okay, so I'm going to heat it up to remove it now. Alright, there's our Tristar chip removed, and I'm going to clean up this a little bit more, see if I can get the rest of this glue off. So We want to be able to have plenty of room for our replacement chip to go in there. Alright, looks good. So now I need to put on my micro soldering pencil to my soldering station. Add a little flux to the area. Fresh leaded solder. Alright, you see that little pad missing there? So I'm going to have to see where that goes. Alright, let's clean up the board. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, let me zoom in for you. Thanks. Get a better view for you. Sorry about that. Okay. So you see this pad in the top right here. See there how it's been removed, that the pad has been removed. So we're going to have to scrape a little bit in that corner because you can see where the trace is at. And we're going to have to scrape that to show some copper. Let me get my knife. And we're just going to solder on and extend a little wire to where it's supposed to be. Okay, so we're going to add a little solder to that little pad. That, and then I'm going to get a small piece of wire. It's really small. I'm just going to solder on just enough to extend it. To where that pad's supposed to be. Use some tweezers. Get these other tweezers. Okay. Now I can cut that with my knife. Like that. You see how that wire just sits right there where that pad used to be. So now, when we put on our new Tristar chip, we're going to have something for that solder to solder to. Clean up the board just a little bit more. A little bit more flux. But we don't want to touch that top right pad because since I just soldered that on there, or else we'll just erase all the work that we just did to put that wire there. Okay. Okay, we should be good. And now we're going to get the replacement Tristar chip. And the compatibility with this chip, the chip that was on there was the 1610A2 chip. Let's see. But the 1610A3 is also compatible with it, which is what I'm going to put on there. I'm going to go ahead and put the A3 chip on there. Go ahead and get that out. Okay. Alright, so here's our replacement. And remember that the pin A, or the pin 1, is in the bottom right corner like that. So that's how we want to put it back on. Let me get my other tweezers now, that they're a little bit more fine. Put this in place. Like so. A little bit of pressure to it so it gets all the way down to where the pads are. And we're going to heat this up nice and slow. Not going to use a lot of air because the air would just blow it right off the board. Nice and slow. So you may be asking, how did this chip go bad? Well, the way this chip goes bad is if you're not using an Apple original or certified cable. There's a chip inside the cable that keeps it from overpowering, getting over voltage, and shorting the phone out. And this chip right here is what saves your phone, keeps your phone from shorting out, sending too much power to it. So what happens is if this cable is not Apple original or certified, then that cable is going to send too much power through. But if you're using a certified one or original one, the cable will not allow too much voltage to go through, so it's going to keep this from happening to your phone. So it's important to use Apple original or Apple certified cables on your iPhones, so that this does not happen to you. Slowly raise the air while I'm doing this. There you go, you see it jump in place. So that's how you know that the chip is now reflowed, all the solder is melted, and it popped in place. Okay. So we'll let that cool off for just a moment, and you'll see it looks like we got a good connection on our wire. Remember where our wire is, the top right there? So you can see there's actually some solder, more solder on that area, because the solder from the chip came and moved up to the wire. So we should have a good solid connection here as well. So we're going to let that cool down for just a moment. And then I'm going to go clean. I'm going to clean the board. We'll get the board back in the phone and check it out. So I'll show you what it looks like after I clean it real quick. So I'll be back. All right. So here you can see the Tristar chip has been cleaned. It's looking good on the board. The area is all clean, and it looks like we have a nice connection. So it should be all good to go. I'm going to go ahead and get this back into the phone, and we'll test it out and see if it does work. Alright, so we have the board back in, just set in there. We're not screwing it down or anything. We're just going to plug in the power adapter. And now we're pulling some amperage, 0.9 volts, or 0.9 amps. And looky there, we have on the screen, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if I can wipe that off a little bit. It's quite dirty. Charging symbol. It's kind of low, but there you go. So we got a charging symbol now, and we're pulling some amperage, which means it's charging the battery. So we're going to let this charge up, and we should have a fully functional phone now that charges and everything. And since it is working, I'm going to have to take the phone back out. I like to put the shield back on and make sure everything's tidied up. You know, we have to screw the board in and everything, but I want to just make sure that it is functioning before I go and do all that, so we don't have to redo it. But you can see there we do have a charging symbol, and it is now working. So that's this is one of the repairs that we do offer here at Multimeter. This seems to happen a lot, especially like I mentioned, if you're using an Apple, not an Apple authorized or certified cable, or even the original cable. If you're not using that, it's likely that this could happen to your iPhone. So it's very critical to use a certified cable. Otherwise, you're going to be in the same situation that this customer was in. Anyways, I hope this helped you out. Hope you learned something. And if you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up and like our video. You can subscribe so that you can be notified when we get more videos up for you. Click the bell icon so that you'll get an email notification. And if you have any comments or questions, just let us know in the field below where you can send that in for us. Alright, hope you have a great day and hope you learned something.